Whilst the journey to 25 and even the content at level 25 has been a lot of fun for some people, it's got to that time now where people are looking forward to the next phase and things that you can do now to start preparing for it. That's been some crazy things like trying to stock up on certain items that will be able to make your journey to level 40 quicker than others, and even planning out what your pre-best is going to look like at level 40 based on us not knowing what new items are going to be added. Now, whilst that's a lot of fun, I want to give you 10 things that I personally am going to be working on over the next couple of weeks getting ready for phase 2. And to be fair, some quite basic ones where you'll be like, oh yeah, I didn't actually think of that. But I mean, hopefully, or this video's pretty pointless. Starting with some of the basic ones first, gold. Now, what we was all saying before Season of Discovery launched was how difficult it's going to be to make gold at level 25. How wrong we was. With Blizzard drastically increasing the amount of gold we was actually getting from quests when we were level 25, actually made it pretty easy to come by gold. But going into any future phase in any version of World of Warcraft with a decent amount of gold is always going to be important, because there's always going to be new items or mounts or something that you can buy, which just gives you the edge if you're going in lumped up. Now, you're probably thinking the primary reason you want to get gold is so when you ding level 40, you can buy your mount. Now, originally, with no reputation reduction, it was around 100 gold to get your mount and your training at 40. Well, in Season of Discovery, it's actually been reduced. So the mount with no reputation standing at all is 40 gold, while the training is only 10 gold. Now, you can see that mine's 9 gold and 36 gold for the mount, but that is based on my reputation. So 50 gold for your mount at level 40, you're easily going to make 50 gold from 25 to 40 anyway. But if you want to make sure that you've got enough now, at least having 50 gold going into the next phase is going to be important, because then anything you make along the way is just going to be a bonus. Now, of course, there'll probably be BOEs that you're going to want to buy, so the more gold, the better. But I think an absolute baseline figure to go in with would be 50 gold, which is not that difficult to come by. As I say, just go and do some quests. And you're probably like, well, if I go and do the quests now, what am I going to do when I ding 25? Well, Blizzard did actually say they're looking at ways to alleviate that issue. Blizzard are already aware that people have been doing these quests to try and make some gold, so they've actually said they're looking at something to do there, and they specifically mentioned the supply logistics box and potentially increasing the amount of XP that you're going to get when you hand those in. So if you've done loads of quests, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Blizzard are already thinking about it. My recommendation would still be right now, if you want to make some gold, to do the lower level quests, so like finishing off Southern Barrens, even Ashenvale, places like that, so you're not actually going into future zones that you're going to need to get XP from. But then that does come down to a few future points, which we're going to talk about, which actually might change your mind. The second is getting as many profession materials as you can, particularly for the 150 to 225. Now, this is important not even just for your own professions, but even professions that you don't have, because initially they're going to be selling extremely fast, because it looks like Blizzard are putting a big emphasis on profession, so you can more or less guarantee that in Gnomeregan, which is going to be the next raid, the level up raid, there's probably going to be crafted items in there that are epic for most crafting professions. So being able to have loads of profession materials stocked up ready to sell, or obviously even use yourself to craft these items, is going to be key. Now, you're probably like, well, that sounds really easy, but how am I going to get these? Well, we know fishing is a fan favourite. You can fish for things like iron-bound trunks or even mithril-bound trunks to be able to get these higher level materials stocked up now. And obviously, you're going to make some good gold along the way and potentially get some higher level greens, which are actually going to help you when you're leveling as well. But just having enough profession material set aside to be able to get your 150 to 225 done as quickly as possible is definitely going to be a big thing. Now, we've already spoke about you doing your quests for gold, but what about doing your quests to actually stock up on XP? Now, this is nothing new, and we've been doing it in every expansion since the dawn of World of Warcraft. We know the levels are going to go up, so you want to stock up on as many quests as possible. If you get a full quest log of quests to hand in, you're not losing out on anything other than the actual XP you would have gained from killing the mobs. So on the basis, Blizzard have already said that they're going to be increasing the amount of XP that you get from somewhere, whether it is the supply logistics or something else. You don't need to be too worried about missing out on the actual killing portion of the XP from these quests. So definitely getting as many quests completed in your log before Phase 2 launches as possible is definitely a good move, and that is one that I'm personally working on right now. Now, many people have said that they'll do something to fix this, they won't give XP, but I personally don't see them doing anything with it, because this is nothing out of the ordinary. Being able to do a little bit of preparation, let's face it, you might get one level out of all of these quests, but being able to do a bit of preparation now, Blizzard, I think, like that. Now, the next one's really basic, but one that you might not have actually done yet or even thought about. And that's making sure that you've got the flight paths that you're going to need from 25 to 40. Now, you might not know which flight paths you're actually going to need. But if you use something like Rested XP, you can literally look through your 22 to 30 and then 30 to 40 and look at all the zones that you need to go to. So for me, for example, I haven't got the Thousand Needles flight path, so I'll be making sure that I've got that. Even then going further forward to the 30 to 40 part, I want to make sure I've got the Desolace flight path. I want to make sure I've got the Arathi Highlands flight path. Now, when you're using something like Rested XP, so it's already laid out and you know where you need to go, obviously it does make it easier, or certainly easier to plan. I mean, you all know I'm a slave to the blue arrow. It just makes leveling so much faster, which actually, let's put that as one of the tips. If we're talking about the quickest ways to level, then Rested XP is one of them. Yes, you have to pay for the guides, but no, you could have been using it in Phase 1 for free because 1 to 20 is just part and parcel of the actual add-on itself. The good thing what they've done with Season of Discovery, it's got all the rune guides in, so when you start a new character, you can literally just pick which rune you want to go and get. It tells you what level, and then it will just guide you around actually going to get that rune. But there is so much more in here than it's simply just telling you where to quest. It alerts you of rare mobs when they're around. It even tells you what talents to pick depending on what way you're going to be leveling. Now, I know if you want to use it for Phase 2, it's an add-on that you've got to pay for, but it is absolutely worth it. And not just because I get kickback from it, because it is an affiliate link that's in the description and the pinned comment, so every guide you buy does actually support the channel as well directly. But quite honestly, for any of you that watch me stream, you know I never play without it. Then moving on to number 6, this is a completely different way to level and a different way to even prepare, because if you don't actually want to grind out in the open world or do quests, we know that we've got some really good dungeons coming up where you could set up a spell cleave group or even a melee cleave group and just spam the life out of Scarlet Monastery. Because you can get in there so early from going to the graveyard, a little bit higher you're going to go library, then armory, and then cathedral, you're probably never going to hit the instance lockout and you never need to move. This is exactly how I'm going to be leveling to level 40. I'm going to be setting up a spell cleave group and we are literally going to live in Scarlet Monastery until we all hit level 40. Now, when I said about preparing, the best way to prepare for doing this is making sure that you've got all the consumables that are going to make it quicker. Make sure you've got certain add-ons like Nova Instance Tracker so you know you're not going to get locked out, and start thinking about who you're going to have in your group now. And to put it in perspective, we're already forming our Spell Cleave group now. Once we've handed in all our pre-prepared quests, we'll meet at Scarlet Monastery and we'll just start slapping. Obviously, you can just run around and quest and it will probably be just as fast, maybe even faster if you ain't got a lot of competition for mobs. But at least if you're tucked away in Scarlet Monastery, if you're on a PvP server, you're not going to be getting killed. You're just going to be in there just grinding away non-stop. Banter on Discord. It's a good way to level. So then point number 7 really is a little bit tied into the Spell Cleave group because I'd already mentioned it, which is consumables. Make sure you've got enough consumables for your journey to 40. This could be anything from health and mana potions to sharpening stones, elixirs, or even your mage-specific scrolls. All of this, as you know, makes you kill quicker, it reduces downtime, so having your bags full of useful items that are going to just speed your leveling up or reduce your downtime is an absolute no-brainer. And remember, the best way to handle this would actually be to get all of these consumables on one of your alts and mail them to your main. So then every time you go back to town, you can just go to the mailbox and top up on whatever you need. Because remember, mail is an hour. You're not always going to be going back to a city to go to your bank, but pretty much every town's got a mailbox. So keeping all of your consumables in your mailbox so you can just, let's say you've run out of health potions, grab a couple of stacks out of the mailbox when you go back to Ann questing, carry on. It does make that slightly more difficult when you're actually doing a Spell Cleave group in Scarlet Monastery, for example, because there's no portable mailbox. Number 9 might seem a bit obvious to some of you if you're already using it, but having Nova world buffs is going to be very important. Like I said, it might seem obvious, but being able to escape a layer when Phase 2 drops that is an absolute plague fest of people wanting to gank you is just a must. Now, what Nova World Buffs does, if you're not aware, it shows you how many layers there are, it shows you who's on each layer in your guild, and then you literally can just ask someone who's on a different layer to you to invite you to their layer, and you just hope that theirs isn't quite as busy as yours. When Phase 2 launches, if you're constantly having to wait for mobs to respawn or you're getting ganked all the time, being able to get onto a different layer is just going to speed everything up for you. Now, don't get me wrong, if everyone's layer swapping all over the place, then, you know, they could just follow you to the next layer. But Trust me, I swap layers quite a lot. And especially on the basis we don't know where these new runes are going to come from each class. If there's anywhere it's a rare mob that spawns, for example, or an elite that's got quite a long spawn timer, you'll probably want to know what layer people are on so you can hop on their layer to potentially kill one of these to get your runes. And then finally, this is again something you can do right now, and it does pass the time, but starting to try and get items that you can't even use yet. What I mean by this is doing some of these dungeons that don't drop anything you can use now, but will help the leveling journey to 40. So yes, they may be hard to do, some harder than others, but it gives you something to do now, like I said. So getting in places like Razorfen Crawl, even the lower bits of Scarlet Monastery to actually get some of these greens drop in, they're all going to give you power spikes while you're leveling. It's not going to matter whether you're questing, you're grinding, you're dungeon cleaving, having a few items in your bag ready to go, obviously it's just going to help. And if you've got a particularly good group and being able to take down even some of the bosses in these dungeons where they drop blue items that you know are going to be super strong for you as you're leveling, you'll probably actually have fun trying to do it at the same time, because it will be challenging when you're missing constantly. But they're my top 10 tips of how you can get prepared for phase 2. Hopefully you at least took something away from the video. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. I've put Rested XP link in the description below if you want to pick it up ready for phase 2, because trust me, once you use it, you won't stop using it, because it is that good. And I'll see you on the next one.